Hello and welcome to the Boostara podcast. I am your host, James. On the Boostara podcast, we speak to leaders in business and education and uncover the truths and insights from their amazing experiences. At Boostara, we help businesses build growth, cut costs, and gain better business insights from strategic AI automations. If you'd like to learn more about how we can leverage AI for your business, type the word growth into the comments below and I will be sure to reach out. Today, we are joined by Steve Rooms and Rob Richmond, private investors, and I should say Steve Rooms, founder of Profix as well. And I want to kind of start off by, from my own research and reading, I kind of feel like Profix is a company that's kind of made accountancy a bit sexy in a way. Um, Steve may or may not agree with me on this, but I mean, Steve, could you maybe start off, give us a little bit of an introduction to yourself, Rob as well. Tell us just your journeys to where you found yourselves today.
Yeah, so I'm a qualified accountant. So I qualified back 25 years ago. So I was working in industry. So I was lucky enough to work with a PLC as part of a mergers and acquisitions team. And that took me through Europe. So I was working in France, in Germany, in Sweden, even spent a little bit of time in Morocco as well as the UK. And that gave me a really good insight into mergers and acquisitions. Wanted to start up my own company towards my late 30s, which I did. So I'd operated at CFO level, then set up Profix. We do provide the traditional accounting services, but we go a step further. We support an awful lot of business owners, helping to prepare for exit, as well as some of the financial evaluation that revolves around mergers and acquisitions too.
Very, very interesting. How did you guys both come to work together, Rob?
We're in the same community of investors, that are around 3,500 business investors, and I'll get it out in a minute. Mergers and acquisition specialists dotted around the world.
Okay, interesting. I mean, what brought you together? I mean, how does that? I know obviously you don't work together within the same specific company, but as a kind of partnership, you kind of what really brought you together and kind of made this partnership in this way? Because I've met a lot of business owners over the years that some have sort of vehemently said, like, no, I don't work with either my romantic partner on in my business or any other person. I do this solo. Other people that it seems that partnerships work very, very nicely together. I mean, what's your view on on working together? You obviously like each other. There's some synergy.
We just put on a good act, No, we're kidding. One of the things that Rob started up, and he'll go into it more in a second, is he's got an organisation called Synergy Groups, and through the network that we're involved in, I'd seen what Rob was doing, and Rob had seen some of the things that I was doing, for other people in the community. So we just reached out and said, "Shall we have a coffee?" So we had a virtual coffee, started talking about different things that we're involved in, and just got on, And from there, we'd explored different deals together. We've done a number of deals already. I think we've done 2 this year, and hopefully we'll do another 3 before the end of the year. And it just, we just spent some time getting to know each other, liked the way that we both worked, and it kind of went from there.
Yeah. So it's been an interesting journey, because I think one of the things you got to do when you've got business partners is you got to see if you align, and it's not necessarily about it's more about having complementary skills, knowing about your strengths and weaknesses. And quite often I find that business owners don't like to admit what they're weak at, whereas it's actually a positive thing in what we do to be transparent. And that way, when you're finding what we call JV partners, people you want to work with, that works particularly well, because then you can go, okay, I know I'm strong here, but I'm weak here. They go, I'm strong here and weak there. And then you go, okay, that works well. What you tend to find in business is, when I go and meet a lot of business owners, they're actually almost identical, or they don't actually have that many skill sets. They're different. And then when we come along and we go, right, the company's not moving fast enough forward because you have these weaknesses. And it tends to be very common things, doesn't it, Steve? We go into business after business and we see the same weaknesses over and over again.
Yeah.
And AI is helping facilitate those gaps, plug those gaps, not facilitate. So.
Yeah. Would you say, interesting you said there about sort of the business skills. I mean, when you go to a company, you approach a company or they approach you, uh, is there a level of you kind of auditing the business owner in terms of their kind of attributes, their skills? Is this the right
Funny you should say
person, the
that.
right
I have a
company to
process
work
called
with?
profiling. Yeah. I have a process called profiling where I go into a company and I profile the staff, the management, the owners, the culture, and the business from an external point of view looking in. This gives you a 360 view of the business and it helps you identify those strengths and weaknesses. There's other things that you need to do as well, but that's the next phase. This is really a few hours worth of our time to go in there and give the business owners a clear sight of their business and what those strengths and weaknesses. Half the time they know it, they just don't want to admit it. And when you've actually got it in writing and they can see it, they go, yeah, okay, fine. How do we fix it? And that's where we come in.
Right. What are those kinds of those misconceptions that businesses have when they're thinking about a merger or an acquisition? And I suppose maybe for the sake of the listeners as well, it's probably very, very different, the journey and the case studies of going either into a merger or an acquisition, or are they both very similar in state?
I think what you often see with business owners, they always want the magic £1 million when we speak to them. And they're not ready, as Rob's mentioned earlier on, they're not ready for sale. And they always have, again, they think that somebody will walk in, they will make an offer for the business and everything will be paid at completion, and then they can sail off into the sunset and do whatever they want to do. But there's a lot of time and effort needs to go in to preparing the sales. If they want, they'll have a figure in their mind. And in order to get to that figure, they need to make sure they put the time and effort in to make it sale ready. And as Rob mentioned a few minutes ago, more times than not, they are nowhere near being sale ready. So for the sake of spending 2 to 3 years, however long that might be, it may be shorter, it's putting that time and effort into putting some of the key things that would make that business really attractive to a potential buyer.
My perspective, there's two elements we often talk about in our community, and that is you've got adding customer value, but shareholder value is always missed. Well, 99% of the time it's missed. Yeah. So the business owner is so focused on adding customer value, they completely miss that when they're selling the business, they need to have shareholder value. That's achieved in many different ways, but generally speaking, that's definitely one of the weak spots that we often find when we speak to business owners.
Does that come from a lot of business owners not having that end goal in mind when they actually start the company, that kind of exit strategy?
Yeah.
Very few people have an exit strategy in mind when they start up a business because they didn't start. Most entrepreneurs are problem solvers, so they don't think about solving the obvious problem, which is how do you get out? They fix the problem in the beginning, and that's why they set up the business. They were working for a plumbing company and they got fed up, so they saw a gap in the market, so they go and set up their own plumbing company. They haven't even thought about where they're going next. They're just fixing a problem.
Yeah.
And what you'll often see as well, when we speak to a lot of owners who are looking to step down and retire, and quite often you'll see in those businesses with the older owners that they haven't taken the time to introduce the technology that transforms the business, so that very little is automated. They're not harnessing AI. And when you ask them the question, well, why are you not doing this? Why are you not doing that? It's quite, well, if I had been 10 years younger, I would have done it. And I've seen this in other accounting businesses that we've acquired. And you would expect an accounting business to be quite automated and run really smart, and they're not. Certainly the ones with the older owners, it's not necessarily the case.
Very interesting. What sort of general advice would you give to, I mean, any business owner that's listening and they haven't thought of an exit strategy as of yet? Would it just be as simple as think of an exit strategy? What do you want to get yourself to kind of end result?
I would say get your ducks in a row now, because you can't sell a business. One of the other things I hear a lot of is, oh, I'm going to sell my business. And I say, okay, when are you planning on selling it? Well, I want to be out by next year. That's just not going to happen in most cases, unless they've got a buyer ready. And that's the other thing on that subject. If you get an offer, take it and run. You've got the money. Money in the hand is there's an expression there, but I can't think of it right this second. But the number of times I've heard business owners, including myself, I got offered a lot of money back in 2006 to exit my company. I had to go through the dot-com crash, the financial crash, and eventually sell out in 2013, 7 years later, to learn a painful lesson, which is I sold out for a third because the multiples had gone down. Nothing else. The actual net profit was exactly the same. But I had one of those businesses. It was my own fault. I turned it into a bit of a zombie company. So it's pretty much doing exactly the same net profit every year, but I didn't need it to do any more. But the problem is the multiples in 2006 in my industry was 21 times because it was it was the internet. So I had an internet service provider and everybody wanted to own it. So they were crazy multiples. By the time it got to 2013, the market had matured and the multiples had gone down to between 5 and 7. Because I'd set it up a certain way, I had a group of companies, I had my ducks in a row, I was able to get the higher multiple. But I was miles away from where I should have been. So if you get an offer, take it, because I could have done a lot with that money over a 7-year period. So that's what I'd always say to business.
And I think another key question that it's one of the first questions we ask when we're speaking to sellers. So if you were to leave the business and go on holiday for 3 months, what would it look like when you got back? And if they put their head in their hands and say it'd be chaos, well, the business is then totally reliant on that owner. And that's one of the things that a buyer would be very wary of, because what they don't want to do is buy themselves a job. So it's worth taking the time to put that structure in place so that if the business owner isn't there, it just continues to run and prosper.
Yeah. A business shouldn't be reliant on a handful of superheroes that run it and make up the whole, DNA of the company. You need good culture, but then you need a whole good system and process and surrounding it. You remind me a little bit of a business owner I worked with in China who he ran a franchise of schools and very ambitious, very intelligent. He used to send us pictures of he was opposite the restaurant table to what's his name, Jack Ma. Like he was well connected. He was but the school he didn't have that end plan. It was his baby. It was his thing. And he'd built it up. He'd won Red Dot Awards for design, the International Red Dot Award for design of the school. The schools were absolutely stunning, beautiful. He was an architect by trade himself. COVID happened, which obviously obliterated a lot of companies, brought down the market massively. But at the same time in China, they had a double reduction policy towards education, which meant that children were not allowed to study English, private English language institutes such as his, and basically made his whole market a lot more constrained, a lot more difficult to grow and then to sell. He had huge value pre-COVID, but just within 18 months, COVID happens, and then the double reduction policy from the government, and then suddenly the business is struggling, right? And it doesn't have that, just like you said there, Rob, but like suddenly it's not worth as much as it was 18 months previous.
Well, how many companies went bust during COVID? You never know when there's going to be something. So if someone puts an offer on the table and it's 3/4, I would just it looks like a good offer, but it's not what you want. I just try and bump them up a little bit. Just get them to a higher amount and then settle and go. Because then you've got that money in the bank. Guess what you can do? You can go and recreate what you just sold if you want to. Unless you've got a non-compete clause, you can go and do it in another area. Generally speaking, non-compete clauses are like 100-mile radius. Just go another country, go another area, go and do exactly what you've just done. Repeat it. But now you've got money in the bank. So now you fast track because you've made you know exactly how to get there.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier about AI. I guess needless to say, really, you think about AI positively, in that in that way. I mean, tell me what do you think of the impact? I mean, specifically for you guys within sort of what you're seeing in mergers and acquisitions. What sort of trends in AI are you seeing? And I totally agree and understand what you're saying about updating technology, right? You need to be at the forefront of technology. Your company should be bringing in systems that are at the level that everyone else is playing at. But yeah, what sort of trends are you seeing within the industry at the moment?
Do you want to just pick up on the agent, Rob?
Yeah, I mean, as a joke, Steve and I often say we've spoken to her this morning, when we're talking about ChatGPT, because we both use it quite a lot. And I think we're building out a number of agents. I built out, Steve knows this one, a CFO one, which helps us do certain things. But we've got a whole C-suite of bots that we use. So we've got CMO, COO, and built them out. And I find them quite interesting because they're able to just take some of the workload off or help a business owner. Sometimes one of the most common areas that I personally see in a business, I mean, from an accounting perspective, there's others obviously, but from my perspective, I see that sales and marketing tends to be a weak spot, a really big weak spot. They actually don't understand really what sales and marketing are, generally speaking. When you actually start to build that out for them and show them what it really looks like, AI is an unbelievable tool to get that skill set in-house. And even with someone with a modicum of understanding or creativity can run that whole sales and marketing department.
Well, I think one of the things that you see, it's acquiring a business is a process like anything else. And if you look at the stages of the process where things can slow down or even fail, a lot of it revolves around accountants. I can say that because I am one, right? And also on the legal side. And as things have progressed, Rob and I have got a suite of documents, whether it be the sale and purchase agreement, whether it be a heads of terms, consultancy agreements, all of those now can be automated. And not only will it create the documents for you, but also if you just put certain details in, it will then put all the right names in all the right places and the facts and the figures. And so that's done in seconds rather than going backwards and forwards between solicitors who were trying to sort of get up on each other.
Yeah.
And that whole part of the process then smooths out. Even down now to looking at different deal structures. Rob just mentioned the agent with the CFO. It was interesting that we have a way that we look at businesses and we plug an example company into a particular deal that we were looking at, and the answers that it came up with and the deal structures are almost identical. It's very clever.
Would you say, that example that you gave there, is it speed? Is that where AI has its benefit, especially within the work that you're doing?
Yes, I think it's speed, but it also takes the ego out of it. Quite often, you'll get the solicitor thinks they want to be seen to be better than the counterpart opposite on the opposite side of the table. So typically, you would have a solicitor on for the buyer and one for the seller. And as soon as the solicitors come together, the process slows down and sometimes even grinds to a halt.
I think where AI is particularly strong, it has some very good qualities, but it also has some weaknesses where humans will always be needed. Unless they actually manage to nail the creative side of it, it isn't very good at coming up with those initial ideas. If you give it ideas, it's great at then manipulating those and taking them to the next level, right? And then you can give it more feedback and keep going down a particular path. You can go down huge rabbit holes, but the point is that I think it's great if you give it the right data. Where I was going with this, you give it the right data, it comes back really well. Yeah. But if you let it go off and try and find data, it can have, hallucinations or whatever. So what we tend to do is when I'm creating a bot, is I give it a set of like a data room to work off, and I go, this is how Steve and I work within this framework, and don't go outside it. Yeah? But then it's amazingly strong because it uses our systems, processes, our models, and everything else, and you almost don't need to check it because it's only going to work in that, and it's data crunching, and that's particularly what it's strong at.
Yeah. So that allows Rob and I to focus on one of the key things when acquiring a business. We want to build rapport with the seller. We want them to like us. We want to get to know them. And ChatGPT or Claude or any of those, they cannot do that. I said not yet, but
Yeah.
so that's where, and that's one of the key processes, and it's one of the myths that people think you've just got to have a big bag of money, you've got to put your house on the line. No, there's one of the key things you've got to do is to build that rapport. And a lot of the times, people when they sell their business, it's not often for money. A lot of the time, it's for legacy because they've worked with the same team for many, many years. They put blood, sweat, and years into this business. They've built it up 20, 30, 40 years. And they just want to know that this business is in the right hands. And what Rob and I always go to extra lengths to reassure the owners is we're not going to change the name above the door. We're not looking into coming in to make wholesale changes. We want to take what you've got and build it. You know, and it quite often it's bringing it into an ecosystem of other companies that we've already got in one of the groups that we have.
I mean, one of the things I often get asked is because sometimes we work with business owners to get them closer to their imaginary value. Because, like I said at the beginning, the actual value of a business today isn't necessarily 90% of the time, I would say, of what they actually want for it. So we have part of Synergy Groups is we work with them to get them to the higher value. And I often get asked, why would I add value before buying the company? Yeah. Well, it's very simple for me is that one is I know the company better, because no matter how much due diligence we do before acquiring a company, you never know it until you got foot under the table.
Yeah.
So having that time to actually understand and nurture that business gets it where we want to get it to. We don't want to buy a job. We want to buy an income generating asset. So in that time frame from where they're at saying, I want to sell my business and they're not ready, I can assure you, to getting them to the point where they are now got an income generating asset. I'll buy an income generating asset every day of the week. Yeah? I don't want to buy a job. Yeah? And a lot of business owners really haven't, I mean, it's 4 levels, right? So you've got one-man band, owner plus staff, owner plus management plus staff. That's the first 3 levels. They're still working in the business, not on it. We need to get them from that to level 4, which is now they're working on it, not in it. So like Steve was saying earlier, can you disappear for 90 days, come back and it's the same business, or even better than it was when you left? That's what you need to get to.
And that's where I suppose the opportunity of AI, especially in sales and marketing, presents itself. Because I think nearly every single business owner is going to be most concerned about sales. Are the sales coming through the door, right? Have we got our pipeline filled? So if there are AI automations that can solve that for them, then that does probably allow them to disappear for 3 months more comfortably.
But also on the accounting side, like Steve was saying, it's very important to have it on that side, because most companies we see have got terrible accounting processes, and yeah, absolutely terrible.
And this is one of the reasons, Rob, isn't it? Why we're launching the Acquisition Playbook, because we're looking to help business owners either to get themselves ready, or in particular, if they're looking to expand, they've got a business and they've got ambition and they want to grow and they want to do it by acquisition. That's where we've got a program that we're about to launch in the next couple of months that will help them to do that. And we help them with the application of it, because it's something that we've done before. You know, Rob and I, we've bought businesses, we've made our mistakes, we've had our successes, and we just apply all of that into what we're about to launch.
Brilliant. Can you tell us more about that? Is that an in-person kind of playbook that you run them through online, or is it? Yeah,
it will be a series of webinars and live events where you can come along and actually listen to different speakers, learn from us, and actually we'll guide you through the process so that by the end of it, you can put your company up for sale. And if you followed the plan and gone through the steps, then you should have the business that you want at the other end. Question is, do you actually want to sell it when it's an income generating asset? Is one question I often ask business owners, right? Because you think about this from one perspective. You want to sell the business, they'll come up with 101 reasons why they want to sell the business, but the real reason is they're fed up with working in it. Yeah? So I don't know that, just my perspective. It could be illness, there could be other reasons, but a lot of the time it's just they're fed up working in it. When we actually say, right, okay, what would you do if you didn't need to work in it? Right? And then you get a different perspective. And this is why we get seller's remorse, because they see us, not us necessarily, but that other people will take on a business, turn it into income generating asset, and they go, I wish I still owned it, kind of thing. So this is why we go through this process. And part of the acquisition playbook is it's an 18-step of 18 different webinars that take you through everything from, if you want to buy another business to grow a group to exit, then it's about that deal making process and what that looks like. But then the main part of it is from when you've done post deal or where you are at this moment in time, and going from there to exit ready and actually selling your company. Because there's a big difference between saying you're going to put your company up for sale and actually getting it sold. I mean, you've just got to look at brokers to see how many companies don't sell. 90% of companies don't sell. It's a horrific figure. A lot of companies will close before they sell. So, or they'll have to find some other way of doing it. So this is why I think if you set it up the right way, you become very attractive to buyers, and that's the key.
And I think just to take that a stage further, we've got all of the practical tools to be able to do exactly what Rob's just described. And then the final part of that is accountability, because we see it before where people have come into the network that we've got and they learn everything that they need and then they don't apply anything. So what we come along, we are the nagging partners, just to making sure that they've done the things that they need to do in the right order. And that helps those people who have got engaged in that process are a lot more successful.
Make them accountable because they've asked for this to happen. So you need to follow these steps to get there. If you're late going off of that path, then it's not going to happen. Yeah. Brilliant. Going quickly back to AI, I'm kind of curious for you guys, for the way that you the way that you guys work. Is there a kind of automation that you see within your own business practice that you haven't put in place yet, but you think if it did, it would have probably a huge impact on your business and the way that you work? Without replacing you guys yourselves, with AI bots.
Look, I mean, we've touched on many of them. If you look at the key disciplines within a business, you've got sales and marketing, you've got finance, you've got your systems and process, which is a key one. We're involved in that all the time, and we're utilizing AI more and more in those processes. So there's in terms of what else could we be doing? It's an interesting question. I can't, off the top of my head, I couldn't think of anything else other than what we've already discussed.
I think from my perspective, you've got the core of a business is a CRM or a ERP system. Right? Having a fully integrated system that has AI built into it, I think is really going to be the major game changer. So that from the customer acquisition point to the customer service, if you've got AI interacting, taking those emails that, I'm too busy to deal with, and AI is picking them up and doing a standard reply. It's somebody's forgot to chase an invoice, AI picks it up and chases it. All of the different elements within a it's checking that CRM or ERP system all the time to going, okay, has Mary done this? Has Frank done that? Has Steve done this? Has Rob done that? Whatever it is that needs to be done, it's either flagging you to say, look, if you haven't done it in the next 10 minutes, I'm going to do it for you, kind of thing. I think that's where AI will really come into its own, and it will transform the business platform, a framework that's, if somebody actually comes up with something like that, I think they've got a tool that will absolutely nail business, because it will make every single department accountable, because it's like constantly checking, have you done your job? Because you could almost plug the job in. You could say, right, Steve does this job, Rob does this job, Mary does this job, and Frank does this job. It's checking you're actually doing your job and reporting you back to HR. That would be an interesting one.
Yeah, for sure, right? Well, I think if it's anything that requires, and I'll hold up my keyboard, anything that requires a keyboard, it probably should be automated to a certain extent, right? I think that the biggest value that I see for exactly those departments is AI automation should be leveraging those individuals for the highest quality activities. Most probably it is conversation, it is speaking, it is persuasion, it's interactions with other humans, right? If all of the rest of the admin work can be taken away by automations, then that's great, because then you're leveraged to that higher activity.
But at the end of the day, we always say in our industry, people buy from people. Right?
Yeah.
Imagine a business where all the grunt work, so AI becomes a VA to every single person in the business. Right?
Mm.
And then you're doing what people do naturally best, which is interact with other humans. Yeah?
Mm.
So if a business had a series of 50 staff that their only job was to interact with other businesses and everything else was taken care of, yeah, I think that's the ultimate business model, because so much of it is unnecessary. It really doesn't add value to us as on our daily life. It's just grunt work we've got to do in order to get through the day. Right?
Yeah.
If that was all taken away by AI, then we can get on with what we do best. We're all naturally good at talking to other people.
Yeah.
People quite often say, like, I was talking to a friend of mine the other day. He said, "Oh, I can't go back on the dating scene." I said, "Why not?" He said, "Well, I'm no good at that." I said, "You got friends, yeah?" He goes, "Yeah." I said, "So you're able to interact with them to get that relationship." It's just a different way of looking at it to go. So I think we're all naturally good at it. We might have some inhibitions about doing certain things like going networking, which I absolutely hate, but I will do it because I know it adds value to my journey. Yeah? But if AI just took all the grunt work out, I think it would be a fantastic world to live in personally.
Yeah.
Just to give an example of that, one of the companies, the financial process was hopeless. It was taking them 6-7 weeks to produce a set of accounts. So by the time it's been produced, it's completely out of date and of no use to anyone. So I've got frameworks that I've worked with other companies that we support, and I just put together a structure that said this is what day one looks like, day two, day three, with the idea that by day 5, initially, by the end of day 5, there is a full suite of management information that would help the business owners to run the business. So we put that into ChatGPT and said, turn that into an app. And in 10 minutes later, I had an app that could be rolled out, and it was sending out prompts. It was got full tech checklist even. It did everything. It took 10 minutes to do.
Amazing. Yeah. And that's I think that's the reality that I heard the other day. There's 40,000 tools, AI tools, on the market at the minute. It's an insane amount. You can't know all of them, right? But for specific use cases, and I think that's where it gets very interesting for every company, and every you'll know, especially with acquisitions, with mergers, every company is very different in the situation that they're in the industry that they're in, the management that they're under. All of the specifics are very, very unique. So there aren't just one size fits all solutions, AI solutions, for every company. It's not just take this, lump it on. Those 40,000 tools, it's almost like building a house. So you don't just build a house with a hammer. You need more tools than a hammer to build a house. Just the same as the AI tools. You use different tools to do different jobs at different times to create, well, not just a house, but the actual vision of what you are completing, right? Whether it's a mansion, a glamping pod, whatever sort of house that you're looking to build. So the AI tools are exactly the same. The strategy and what you use is very unique, very different, and ever evolving, right? Even AI tools creating AI tools, right? ChatGPT creating the programs needed for that specific use case. Hey guys, I want to ask you both. I mean, moving forward, you've got the acquisition playbook coming up shortly. You don't have a date for it yet, do you?
No, we're working on that at the moment, so probably in the next 4 to 6 weeks.
Okay. Well, I mean, what are you guys moving forward for in the future? What's your vision for the coming period?
Well, if at the moment, Rob and I are just looking at listing a business. We're in the process of buying a company in Portugal, which will form part of a group. So we're buying a company. And if you'd have said this to me a few months ago, or even at Christmas time, I would have thought you were off your rocker. But here we are. We're buying a business in Portugal, listing it in Europe. We've then got other businesses lined up in Spain and France and South America that would come into this group of companies. We've got another group that we're looking to build up on the automotive side. I've personally got another one in leisure. Rob's got other groups that he does as well. So it's really looking to build up those groups and making sure that we're bringing him in with the right companies that will complement each other.
Mm-hmm. Amazing, and that's you see that going forward further and further. I mean, that's one project, right? But similar projects you're looking to build out into the future.
I mean, Rob will say the same thing. At any one time, we have a pipeline of different deals that we're working on. So I think at the moment, I'm probably involved in 6 or 7. Now, Rob's probably involved in more because Rob's very, very good at deal sourcing. Rob doesn't sleep. It's a standing joke that Rob just doesn't sleep. So I mean, Rob can tell you an awful lot more about the sourcing side and some of the other projects that he's involved in as well.
Yeah, we've got a marketing group, which is ironically works very well with what we were talking about earlier. So they're working in the automotive part of the group. We've got 2 companies in that group at the moment. One's brand aware, building up that brand. They do work with a lot of the big companies. Everyone from Pfizer, they've got a whole load. They do chocolate companies. They do all sorts of things. So they do proper branding, and so we've got another one that's coming into that group, which is a lead generation PPC. So that's that, and they do SEO as well. So that particular group is quite an interesting group because it's very easy to turn that group into a global player because the products they already got. So the automation one's more of an AI, funny enough. It actually really isn't a marketing company. They've managed to come up with a series of AI tools that work particularly well in the automotive industry. So they've augmented from a marketing company to an AI company, and they're doing it very well. They've just got some very big contracts. They've doubled in size, going from about a 2 million to a 4.5 million turnover. So it's a very good. Just shows you how fast. If you're willing to keep it, for me, I don't think business is. You got in it originally to solve a problem. So why aren't you looking for problems all the time and augmenting it if it doesn't work? And we're doing this in an automotive one that Steve and I own, where the funding partners to get the cars on the lot just pulled out of the market. One of them did. And we lost half our car yard in one go. So we've had to augment that business into a completely different business. So that's what we're in the process of doing at the moment. But I think a lot of people get left behind because this is what we do, rather than how else, what are the problems in the market that we can go after? You're doing that with your walking one, aren't you, Steve?
We are, yeah. We're currently in talks to bring another one in that gives us access into European walking, and so it's interesting. You never get 2 days alike. It's Rob and I are very lucky because we get to do this every day.
Amazing. Well, I mean, with that, guys, I mean, if anyone wants to reach out to you both directly, whether it's to do with accountancy, mergers and acquisitions, I mean, what's the best contact details to get you on?
I'd say LinkedIn.
Yeah, reach out to us on LinkedIn.
Very easy to find on LinkedIn. Just search us and you'll find us.
Brilliant. And I'll put your LinkedIn profiles down below so people can get through to you quickly. But I would highly encourage everyone and anyone to check out the Acquisition Playbook. I know I will be, because you've put that top of my mind as well. What is my exit strategy? What is my end plan? I should know that now. And I think everyone, if they own a business, they should have that top of their mind, and they should check that out once you release dates. But Rob, Steve, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on. Thank you very much for contributing to this discussion.
Fantastic. Thanks for inviting us.
Cheers. And thank you everyone for listening.